Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast with Mike and Mike. Sales is a thinking process. This podcast will help you learn about what works in sales, how to hone your skills, and increase your success. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry. Hey, Mike and Mike, I have really been hit with this idea working with you guys that even though maybe I'm not a professional salesperson in the way that you are, good enough
to the dark side, Jody. Come to the dark side.
Well, I feel like
25 episodes, you gotta be getting closer.
And what makes you think we're professional?
Well, if you say you're professional, that's half the battle, right?
I guess so. You got to believe it. Believe, conceive, achieve.
Well, you two have really caused me to look at my sales processes and what I do. And so I've got a question. I'm going to maybe step over a listener question here to ask my own question. And I'm really curious about call planning. What do you guys plan your calls? How do you do this?
We do. So call planning is something that really is important. And I think at least from a general sales perspective, we do a really good job of planning calls when we're going to make a first contact with somebody. I think it's part of the research. It's part of showing that you're prepared for that initial impression that you're going to make with somebody you're reaching out to. And we do spend time thinking about what questions do we want to ask? Where do we want to try and guide the discussion? What should we be listening for? What do we want the outcome to be? We tend to do that during initial meetings with people. But I think it's something that if you apply that same discipline as you're engaged with somebody throughout the sales process, you can see very positive results from investing the time.
So from a call planning perspective, this is one of those things that drives most people who've had a chance to work with me crazy. One of the many things. But this
isn't the reason. It's in the top 5.
It's in the top 5, but this is where we get into that kind of the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, the how. It's all those simple questions. I'm getting ready. I am prepared to have a conversation with the head of marketing inside at an engineering company, and I know all of the stuff that I've got that I want to share about my organization and how great our product is and all that other kind of stuff. But the thing that's going to keep her engaged, the thing that's going to keep that conversation going are the questions that I ask her about her business. I need to have a pretty strong understanding of what I want to learn from the discussion. And that's one of those instances where maybe it's a discovery call or it's a research meeting. I'm trying to gather information. This is less about me delivering information. I'm not presenting stuff. In a situation where I'm presenting information, then maybe the objectives are based more on what do I want to make sure we accomplish? What kind of information is delivered? How do I want the person on the other end of the call or the person who's also involved in it to react at the end of the discussion? Is my objective another meeting? But I get back to the basics. It's who am I meeting with? Why are they interested in meeting? What am I trying to accomplish in the conversation? What do I think they're trying to accomplish in the conversation? What do I want to make sure that both of us walk away with? And how are we going to get there? And then just start working backwards.
So another thing that really ties in with creating a call plan, if you want to call that, is the agenda. Setting an agenda for a meeting, understanding what the expectations are for a meeting. It's a good practice to have that discussion, and you can do that through the email confirmation. You can do it through the calendar invite, but let somebody know what it is that you are trying to achieve. Have the end in mind and give the person an opportunity to add to that agenda. You might find that what you're proposing to meet about might be way off base or doesn't meet the expectations of the person you're meeting with. And you'd rather know that ahead of the meeting so that you can fine tune what that call plan looks like and accommodate the needs of the person that you're meeting with versus assuming that whatever it is you want to get out of the call is going to hit the target. Many times it's a good way to sort of validate where you are in the process and are you in sync with the person that you're attempting to meet with.
And I know this is a common rookie move, but how many times have you been in a meeting where your expectation is that meeting is going to be 60 minutes long, but the expectation of the person on the other end is it's a 30-minute meeting? So by going through that agenda, being able to clarify expectations around how much time they have, what they want to accomplish, if anything was missed in the agenda, those are all really important things to address early on in the discussion so that you don't miss an opportunity.
Well, I'm going to come clean here on something on myself as I feel my initial call is strong. I know where we need to go on the call. I know what information I need to get, but usually there's a follow-up call because that first call leads to me creating a proposal because I now understand the work that the potential customer needs, but I don't feel that my second call is quite as strong. So I don't even know what I'm asking here. I'm just saying, hey guys, what do I do? My second call is not as strong as my first call. What do you do in that case?
So Jody, what I'm hearing is you make a great first impression, go out, great dinner, and then the second date, you show up and you're going to eat at Burger King or In-N-Out or fast food. I guess so. Look at the first call or look at the second call or the third call or the fourth call or the fifth call, the same as the first call. You should go through that same planning process. You should go through that same just quick check to determine what do I want to accomplish out of the discussion? How much time do I have to do it? Who am I meeting with? I've been involved in situations where I've had a second call with a customer and there's a surprise visitor on the call. And now all of a sudden we've got to do another set of introductions. Maybe the surprise visitor is an expert on the technology side and I'm smart enough to be able to turn my phone on. And now I'm in a situation where not only am I going to waste this person's time, there's going to be a number of things that are going to come up where I just may not be able to address it. So, my advice would be look at every call as if it's your first, but know that you're bringing some historic knowledge to that discussion, which just happens to be the research that you would have done for any other call.
And really, the reason we say that sales is a thinking process, and this relates very closely with each of these call plans, is you think about where you are in this journey going from that introduction to hopefully doing business with somebody. And you know that there's a series of meetings and discussions and information gathering and then information sharing that takes place throughout that process. And what the call plan document really helps you do, and by the way, we're going to make this available on our website. We have a call planning document. We'll tell you at the end of the podcast how to get a copy of that. But anyhow, we think about where we are in the sales process. And at every step along the way, it's a series of agreements that you're trying to move forward. And so if you think about where am I right now with this opportunity with somebody? So in your example, Jody, you were talking about, I know all the things that I either want to share with somebody or that I want to learn from somebody on that first call. But then the second call is what we see a lot of time. And I'm not saying you do this, Jody, but a lot of times it's, well, I just want to check in with them and see if they've thought about it, or I just want to get an update or see what the progress is. And really, from a process perspective, you have certain milestones you want to achieve during that first call. What are the goals and achievements that you want in that second call? And then what does that discussion need to sound like? So you kind of reverse engineer from the outcome and where you are in the process. Here's what I want that discussion to look like.
And I think Mike's hit on this a couple of times as he's gone through it. It's begin with the end in mind. I mean, just go back to your covey and think about that. What are my goals? What are their goals? So, in that plan that Mike talked about, you'll have maybe a list of questions that you'd like to answer, that you'd like to make sure that your contact is answering. Maybe it's a nugget of information that you want to share. That nugget of information, hopefully it's not product specific. Hopefully it's not feature functionality based. Hopefully it's something insightful. Maybe it's an article that you read that relates to the organization's industry that they're in, or something that you read that relates to something like a person that they're following, a person that they think is important. Too many times, and you see it across the board with sales reps, too many times everybody just wants to share. They want to talk. Or
they want to get into a product demo. That's pretty common too. It's like, if I could just get them to a demo,
if they could just see it,
they'll see it and it sells itself. And I'll tell you, sometimes it might, but most of the time, if you enter into that discussion too quickly by just doing the show and tell and just hoping that the product sells itself, what you've done at that point is you've shifted the opportunity to have a conversation and learn more about the problem you're solving. And you'll find that the discussion is going to revolve almost exclusively around the product itself, what they like, what they don't like, what's missing. Oh, if it only had this, if it only had that, without a lot of context. And so it really narrows the conversation to now just doing show and tells of products. And you'll find yourself potentially in a loop of, oh, now I want to show it to another person. And you find yourself showing and demoing your product 3 and 4 times and not making any sort of progress, which can be very frustrating.
not only will it be frustrating, many times it takes you a couple of steps backward. If you're sharing the wrong information with the wrong person inside an organization, you're wasting their time, and you may end up creating objections that you're not really willing or ready or interested in handling. So often we see that situation where someone wants to jump into the demo of the product without actually qualifying the customer to determine, are they the right person inside the organization? Who else really should be part of the buying process? Why are these things important? How are they addressing it today? So, Jody, to get back to your second question, and I think we said it earlier, but treat that second call just like you would the first.
We've talked on past episodes how scripts aren't the best idea and probably don't help you in sales. What's the difference between call planning and using a script?
From my perspective, a call plan is an outline. It's a set of guideposts that I put out there. Think of downhill skier. I've got to go through a couple of gates. I miss a gate, I may be off track or off course. So the call plan for me is a way of identifying the guideposts that I want to make sure I go through in the course of the conversation.
And another way to think about that too is that a script assumes you have all the answers, and it assumes that you know everything you need to say. And it might even have some complexity built into it that says, okay, deliver these 3 sentences. And then based on the response, they'll have a decision tree or more complex script. But even the simplest of scripts, you're really assuming that you don't really care what you hear to learn anything. You're saying you figured it out. You just know the things that you need to say. I think a call plan, just as important as what you want to ask and what you know, is what you don't know and what you need to know. And in a call plan scenario, anytime you need to move something forward, it's usually because you have an absence of information. And so what the call plan helps you really focus on is, what information am I missing here to try and solve a customer's problem or move an opportunity forward? What are the missing pieces? And it's hard to drive that from just having a script. I think having, like Mike said, the guideposts and the question sets and understanding where you are sort of in the evolution of a process really helps put context around a lot of that. And you don't try and do everything all in one phone call, but you understand this is an incremental step. And if you take a complex opportunity where maybe you've had 200 phone calls or 200 meetings, and I'm talking about a very complex, maybe a multi-year kind of agreement. If you kept all your call plans and put them into a binder at the end, you could read that like a storybook, and you'd be able to map that through the progression of a very complex sale, and it would read that way. It's almost like, writing in a journal. Same thing. You'd be able to see how that process flowed. And then at the end of it, say you didn't win a proposal you were competing on, it's a great post-mortem tool to say, let's go back and look at what we did. We always want to know what we didn't do right or where we went wrong and things like that. Going through old call plans is a great way to say, how was this flowing and how was it working? What were we doing in these meetings? And were we on the right track? And where did we start to get off track? It's a great way to do that sort of forensic analysis of a complex opportunity.
Mike Connor, earlier you mentioned that we were going to offer a call planning document. Tell me about that and where we can find it.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking what we'll do is we'll host that on our website at catalystsale.com, and just go on the homepage. You'll see a button where it'll just say download sales call plan. If you were one of the first 100 people to download it, we'll actually throw you a second one for free. I'm totally kidding. I was watching mypillow.com ads last night and they had the 2-for-1 offer. But no, it's just a simple PDF document. It's something that hopefully people will find it helpful to organize their thoughts around how they're thinking about calls and planning calls. It's a very simple form. It's a 1-pager. We've used it for years and we're happy to share it with people. So just, go to the website, feel free to download it and share amongst your peers if you get value from it. And if you do find value from it, or if you think we could, add to it or whatever, drop us an email. That'd be great.
Yes, that's all it takes. Visit catalystsale.com. You can put in your email address and the document will be sent right to you. And I know I'm going to get this because I need to improve that second call. Well, as we wrap up here, do you have any final thoughts about call planning?
My only last thought would be it's worth the time. I think a lot of times we get into a sales process where we just feel like we've hit a rhythm and it's not an autopilot, but we know where we're at and we know what needs to be done. we don't take the time to invest a couple of minutes in call planning, and that's usually where the pitfalls happen. So I know sometimes it feels like, wow, I'm investing time planning the plan or what have you, but particularly with a complex opportunity, it's time well spent. So I would encourage people to, if you have to, just force yourself to try it a few times and see the benefit you get from investing the time.
Yeah, and failure to plan is a plan to fail. Take the time. It's worth every bit of energy and attention you put into it.
Okay, thank you, Mike and Mike. You two are outstanding. And thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale Podcast.